thank you very much, John, for honoring us with your presence and being able to do this with us today. And then I want to welcome Nina. Nina is the Executive Director at Embed Services. She's in charge of strategic impact. And today she's actually doing this webinar, moderating this webinar, and talking about the impact of borderless collaboration. I'm not going to waste any more time on this, and we're going to start, and I'm going to hand over to John. I also want to, before I hand over to John, I want to welcome all our guests in the meeting room. We've got someone from True Partners. I know they're doing a lot of work with global learning. Welcome. I also want to welcome Hannah Ray. Welcome to the webinar, Hannah. I also want to welcome some of the team, some of the participants. They have actually been trained by John on our visit to the UK. So welcome Siti Ramla and Siti Albea. Welcome everybody. So I'm going to start sharing my screen, John, and I'm going to hand right over to you.
Thanks, Jasmine. Did the slides come through okay?
Yes, it came through well.
See the technology
okay. You
that is great. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, everyone at Embed, for all your fantastic commitment to international education. Great to see so many educators and partners on there. Good to see two partners involved as well. Just to say a big thank you to everybody involved in this work. Certainly since the British Council was established, gosh, going back to 1934, what has underpinned all of our work has been very much the importance of that authentic communication. So connecting, communicating, understanding, trust certainly has always been writ large in all our commitment to schools. And certainly the core purpose of the work has always been about enriching and improving. We really believe it's incredibly important to have those authentic encounters with educators globally, that young people aren't just looking at the website or at the globe or in a book, but actually bringing the world into the classroom. And that's why we talk very much about this work broadening horizons through that, through those authentic encounters, that we all flourish, thrive and grow. I think the challenges of the last 12 months have shown that now more than ever, educators need to come together. The issues that we hear around things like digital divide and the pressures on home learning have shown more than ever now that we do need that wider global community of educators to share best practice. So thank you, Jasmine.
Okay.
So again, to put this in that wider context, you know, why we're here today, looking at certainly the impact of global education. We do a lot of research. We stay in touch with the many thousands of schools that we work with, both in the UK and globally. And certainly I think we'd all agree that the importance of that wider emotional engagement with the work. Certainly we find when we're talking to schools in the UK that having that authentic audience, the real purpose for learning, that your work will be seen by colleagues and friends in your partner school overseas is a really important spur to develop high quality work. And certainly creating that shared purpose. Again, a big thanks to Colette, who's on the call, one of our most valued schools ambassadors. And we'd be delighted to do more work with the educators on the call in supporting that wider global schools ambassador network that the British Council is very committed to. To communicate that engaging picture, this really does have impact. The importance of connecting with others is obviously incredibly important. Making those regular opportunities to understand and share best practice and bring in that best practice into everyone's teaching. It really is a very sharing, supportive community of learning here. And again, important to shape the future. Educators are the most important people in the world, and it's incredibly important that your voice is very much at the centre of policy development, of ensuring that young people are having the best possible experiences at school in order to develop those important skills of being globally aware young people. Of course, the importance of working together while we're on this call today, establishing those common goals. I think we're all very committed to ensuring that global education and sharing its impact is at the heart of all our work. And what's really interesting as well is, again in the UK, we're having our Schools Ambassadors Conference on the 27th of March. And we have these annual get-togethers. They're very informal, very supportive, very enriching. To actually, in that safe space, as it were, to bring together that best practice. What are you doing in your school? What have you learned from your linked schools to inform and develop better practice in all this work as well? So again, ensuring that continuing professional development is at the heart of it. And of course, making it happen. We all agree this is incredibly important. There are challenges, but we want to make these things happen. And certainly where the British Council come from, we're very committed to ensuring that those school links, those opportunities for educators to come together in order that horizons are broadened, in order that young people are opening their eyes ever more so to the power, value and impact of this work is a hugely important part of it. Okay, thanks, Jasmane. So a quick overview of all of our work and the benefits, you know, for those many stakeholders. We stay very close, obviously, to schools. There's around 33,000 schools in the UK. Ideally, we'd like to work with all of them. And certainly a big part of our work regionally is staying close to a range of wider policies, domestic agendas, and certainly our own commitment to developing that friendly knowledge and understanding in order to develop skills around creativity and professionalism. A big part of our work is obviously supporting partnerships, and great to be working with LEAPED. And we said at the beginning, we would be delighted to support your work with UK-Malaysia partnerships. Lots of range of benefits. What's really interesting for us is many of the benefits that we hear about are actually from parents and carers and governors and other stakeholders outside the wider community as well. But certainly lots of benefits for that global collaboration, particularly for learners. Lots of research around it actually has impact on improved reading and writing. Lots of benefits for teachers. This brings you access to obviously that wider community of educators to inform your wider knowledge of countries, cultures and religions. Certainly for our International School Award, our flagship programme, we get lots of feedback from schools that this is a really important way to meet the wider objectives of the school. Certainly in the UK, many schools are interested in issues around the social, moral, spiritual and cultural aspects of education. And at the heart of this work as well, the international dimension supports that. Certainly ensuring that the school has a stimulating curriculum, that there is this very positive ethos happening to bring the world into each of the classrooms. And of course, it's a great way of developing those relationships with parents, with ministries of education and businesses and issues around transition. It's very interesting as well. We get feedback now that many parents are actually when they're looking for a school for their children, the fact that there's a place of learning here that very much celebrates cultural and linguistic heritage, actively encourages those connections, is a school that they're very interested in. And again, I'd like to pay tribute to Colette at this point for her great work at St. Mary's. We actually use Colette School as a model across the UK about how schools can actually integrate many of these and really celebrate some really powerful teaching and learning. So thanks, Jasmine. Okay, and here's our global citizen. What's really interesting for us is we talk, obviously in our wider network, 110 countries, to our education managers, to teachers and educators and policymakers globally as well. What is the value of this work? It's not us just saying this or a few teachers saying this, but we find this is very central to a whole philosophy about the real whole school impact. So we asked educators in 27 countries, actually no, it was 55 countries, and these were the top 27 responses. What was really interesting for us is the top one was they wanted young people to be global citizens, which was as we hoped. And also what came through very strongly is the value of languages. Because we would always say languages are incredibly important, but at the heart of this as well is that opportunity to understand the wider cultural aspects of language. So it's not just doing a language, it could be, well, learning French with a Francophone African country, doing Spanish with a Mexican link. We have many schools now doing their Portuguese linking with Brazil. So we would say the importance of language is actually looking at it in its wider context. But what came through very strongly for us, as you can see here, is the skills and attributes of global education on the impact of the lives and skills of young people were very varied, and we're all about actually wider skills around self-esteem, that can-do attitude, curiosity, a thirst for knowledge, independent questioning, a whole range of skills that are brought together that young people, when they enter the world of higher education or the world of work, they're actually bringing a whole range of skills that international work have imparted to them at school. So thank you. So again, a big part of our offer is we would be delighted to support schools who are on the call, delighted to work with LEAPED to develop more international partnerships. We now have, 93,000 schools globally involved in the work. So a big part of our commitment is to support those school partnerships. And again, what comes through very strongly in our work with schools, in our feedback when we actually talk about the value and impact of this work, is that we see this offers a very central ethos, that framework for developing work. Certainly with our International School Award, at the heart of this is that framework. Schools can come to this from a million different pathways and contexts, and that's absolutely fine. Because at the heart of it is that flexible framework that they can develop their own range of international work. And what interestingly came through very strongly as well is the commitment to that positive PR for the schools. We always say to schools, do celebrate the great work you're doing. It's a fantastic way of encouraging that wider dialogue around the importance of international work. So very, very key aspect of it. The recognition of intercultural dialogue, we think it's incredibly important that the global context to teaching and learning in schools is celebrated and developed. Again, that whole school philosophy there. It providing an important place to develop that dialogue around differences and diverse opinions and values and viewpoints. Very important space to develop that wider understanding between different people, different countries. What came through very strongly as well is that common vision. Many schools are obviously now looking at issues there around the Sustainable Development Goals, the importance of climate change issues, issues around gender equality. We've had some great work that was developed obviously earlier in the week for International Women's Day, So again, international work provides a very important, a very flexible space to bring in a whole range of topics and look how we are all involved and connected through global activity. Of course, the key importance of encouraging cultural understanding and the mutuality at the heart of this. It's always been about everybody learning from everybody else and respecting and celebrating those ways of delivering great quality education. As we said earlier, what comes through very strongly and interestingly, this is a great way for student voice and issues around self-esteem. That at the heart of this is celebrating a whole range of diverse voices in the school. We like the quote. We were at a school in Manchester, before lockdown last year, and they just got the International School Award, and we were very interested that as you entered the school, what was writ large, there are no passengers on planet Earth, we're all crew. And we kind of thought that was a very useful, a very powerful distillation of the importance of international work, that we're all learning with everybody else together. Now more than ever, we think these issues are incredibly relevant. And as we said, a lot of our work now is developing work around those sustainable development goals. And on the website, we have lots of lesson plans, lots of ideas how schools can develop that key work and how to actually bring in those issues and use those as a long-term curriculum focus at the school as well. So yes, international activity is indeed key. Absolutely. We would say wholeheartedly, educators are the most important people, and schools providing a very important focus for all this work. A couple of quotes that we felt were really important that were describe the importance of the impact in their schools. That it helps you not just think about yourself, but to think about other people. This is very much about being able to compare and contrast your experiences, your location, your geography globally as well. And when you talk to students about their place in the world and explore those different communities and different cultures, that's when they really come alive. And again, that's where we stay very close we are working with teacher groups across the UK as well, that this provides a rich range of resources. This provides a very rich range of very relevant, important learning topics that young people really feel important. And again, that authentic audience for that teaching and learning. A quick overview of our Connecting Classrooms, the core skills working. Sorry, Jasmane, I was just going to read through the core skills. If you want to go back one. So a quick overview of the core skills learning there, many of which are writ large in our Connecting Classrooms program around critical thinking and problem solving, collaboration, communication, creativity and imagination, digital leadership and personal development, and increasingly, obviously, with home learning, digital literacy. This is coming through very strongly, that there's a really powerful way of developing that digital access. The 3 I's, and you've probably heard this as well, certainly UK schools, the importance of the intent, the implementation, the impact of all your international work, ensuring that it's planned, ensuring that it is delivered in the school. Okay, thanks, Jasmane. We can go to the next. Okay, thank you. Okay, now this was actually developed when we talked to schools in China who have recently taken on the International School Award. We felt this was, again, a very useful overview of why schools, why teachers would get involved in this work. At the heart of this work has always been the development of those successful learners, confident individuals and responsible citizens. Certainly why we're all here today is that shared commitment to high quality teaching and learning. Thanks, Jasmane. The importance of a whole range of skills there, of learning skills, social skills, thinking skills, research and functional. and also wider skills about being principled, responsible young learners. And lots of ways to get involved. Something we're very proud of with the International School Award is we work with many thousands of schools who've sent through their action plans, who've told us about the work they've done, is every one of those schools has always said, do share this. It's very much about that global community of learning. So loads of ways, as you can see here, to get involved, everything from exploring languages to histories, world flora and fauna. So if you go on the website, there's lots of ideas how your school can get involved, because we're very keen. There's lots of ways to get involved, lots of ideas. And again, that's why we picked out when young people enter the world of science or the physical world or the cultural activity, this is very much a broad range of delivering some high quality teaching and learning. So lots of ideas on the website as well. Thanks, Jasmine. And that's it, that's the overview. As we said, many thanks to the wonderful work of LEAPED, the wonderful work that you're all involved with on the call. They're my details. And we've also highlighted the website there, that all these resources are actually contained. So we've got lots of the learning packs. We've recently introduced learning packs around Poland, Indonesia, India. We can certainly develop one for Malaysia now, because we want the great learning and skills and case studies that schools are developing to be shared. So a big part of the work is bringing all these together. And I hope you can see this, but we've recently developed a Shakespeare pack, the global impact of teaching Shakespeare. We have lots of language challenges on there. So we hope this provides a very broad, a very supportive, wider framework that really demonstrates that there is massive impact with global collaboration. At the heart of all our work is bringing educators together and sharing best practice, and we're delighted to be part of today. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, John. I'm going to hand over to you and Nina now, and Nina will be moderating the session, and we look forward to any questions that our audience may have. Please put them in the chat and we will answer them accordingly. Thank you so much, John.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jasmine. Thank you very much, John. Very useful and fascinating overview. But my first question is, in a sense, when you talk at on a forum like this, in a sense, you're preaching to the converted, aren't you? So my first question to you is, you know, schools are notoriously insular, parochial places that, you know, understandably put their students first, put their communities first. So my first question to you is, how do you overcome the challenges of convincing schools that there is a need for this wider outlook?
Thanks, Nina. It's a very interesting issue. We invest heavily in our ambassadors network, and also face-to-face. Hopefully that will come back soon. And actually talking through and kind of challenging some of the assumptions of getting involved in this. In fact, tomorrow we're talking, we've got a Zoom call with some schools in Stratford in East London. You may know that British Council's HQ has recently relocated to East London. So a big part of our work there will be, we're actually moved to the youngest place in the UK. There are more under 30s in Newham, in East London, than anywhere else in the UK. But what's conversely interesting is it's actually not terribly involved with a lot of international work.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
So a big part of our work there. So we're actually talking to, we've got an hour with some of the senior educators based in the local council there.
Okay.
And we're coming armed with some great information, but we've also got a couple of head teachers who are involved in this work to actually complement what we're doing. Because we feel, again, we've got all the research, and I can put this in there as well. We've done lots of research about the value of this work. So it's not just us saying this at the British Council, but actually there's a lot of research evidence that schools who are involved with international work, you will do better with your literacy, with your numeracy, with your wider engagement. So, and as well as you may be aware of the Office for Standards in Education that schools in England have to undertake as well. We're doing lots of work with them to ensure that international work is noted and celebrated.
Right. So in the UK currently, Ofsted doesn't take that into account at all in there.
Well, it's always been a slight challenge. We were quite fortunate when schools talk about issues there around cultural capital and social, moral and spiritual cultural. This is a great way of demonstrating that. And also to demonstrate the equity of this. There may be a belief that it's easier for schools who are perhaps in a more diverse neighbourhood where there's lots of languages spoken, lots of linguistic and cultural heritage, than say a more monocultural area that perhaps hasn't got. But what's again very interesting for us is we have done work with a lot of schools in Plymouth. And part of the issue for these schools was actually with the decline of industry. They felt there was a real need to re-engage young people and educators, given their physical dislocation, obviously, in the southwest of the country. So what was great for us is their local educators took international collaboration as one of their KPIs.
Okay, that's good.
So they recognised that actually to get involved with international work was a really important way of demonstrating that wider commitment to international education. And what's great is all of their schools now are involved with international work. That's been a real success. There's also agendas in the UK that you may be aware of. We talk about the levelling up agenda to ensure that all areas of the UK are involved in the importance of international work, being able to have partners, being able to enrich the curriculum. So we look strategically around the UK, what's needed, what can we do to support them, and also because we have got a wide and diverse group of supporters, we can actually put them in touch with the school to have a talk with them about the value of the work. And this is a very, very supportive process. We absolutely appreciate that, Nina, that schools feel they've got lots on, they've got different priorities. We hear now about the recovery curriculum as schools opened up again on Monday. So we're very keen that this work is never seen as a kind of add-on or something to do on a Friday afternoon or school trip, but actually developing a very powerful ethos. We talk about schools bringing the world into their classrooms. So they're open to these experiences, open to actually engaging. And it does have impact. You know, we're talking to schools in Birmingham about Birmingham 22, as we said at the beginning, and a big part of their work is linked schools. A big part of the work as we look ahead to Coventry in the UK, which is our City of Culture later this year, to link schools in Coventry. We've got the COP26, the climate change conference going on in Glasgow, and a big part of the work there will be to, again, engage schools. So it's long-term, Nina, and we're very much more about quality rather than quantity, and very much about demonstrating not only the hard research around this, but also this really does enrich the school. As we said, the strongest feedback we get for this work, interestingly, from parents.
They can see the benefit more readily, can they?
Absolutely, because you've got young people who are very much engaged in that authentic experience of education as well. We actively encourage schools to bring parents in. A great activity we did with the school, again before lockdown, was an international cuisine evening to actually engage the parents to bring in food from their heritage countries, and to actually create that ethos of that shared commitment to learning.
Okay.
This isn't the add-on, but actually really, really has impact. And it does, you know, certainly we get lots of feedback that this is supporting literacy objectives, a great way of developing languages. Because the British Council can get you a partner school, it provides an authentic way of engaging. So it's a kind of very wide range of support we give to schools. And we find when we've spoken to them, when we've imparted some of the research, and we actually say even just download some of the resources. Like for every year we do our year Chinese New Year. This was last year's year for that. We do those every year. And it could be something as simple as doing some calligraphy.
Right.
It could be something about actually learning some words in Mandarin. So small yet significant steps. And because all of our education packs are written by educators, they're as light touch as you wish.
Right.
So sorry, quite a long response there, but again, we appreciate what schools are going through with very challenging times, but we engage with them to demonstrate how this has real impact.
Thank you. Okay, it'd be interesting. I mean, talking about long-term impact, yes, I think, you know, you've talked about the benefits for teachers and students in terms of literacy and all that, but it would be wonderful, wouldn't it, if we managed, if there was some kind of longitudinal study where we could track students who've been, you know, to very, you know, who've had a lot of exposure to international education, and whether there is a change in those values, that mindset, those critical, you know, core competencies that we're looking for in the future, right? In terms of developing those competencies. Would there anything be on the cards in terms of measuring that kind of impact?
You're absolutely right, Nina. Again, I think that's something we're all aware of, that longer term.
Yes.
But what's really interesting for us again is we obviously work closely with the HE sector.
Yes.
And a big part of that around languages, young people who take languages. A big part of our work is in that wider internationalism, talking to employers about, we would never call these soft skills, you know, to actually be aware of the importance of cultural heritage, linguistic heritage, travel, language, intercultural. These are really important skills as well for employers. Absolutely. So what we do is we work with a whole range of wider stakeholders as well to demonstrate to them the importance of this work.
Okay, excellent. Yeah.
We have a program, the Language Teacher Training Scholarships, where young people who are thinking of languages can get additional support to get them in the classrooms. And what our work with those young people shows is they were all, the light came on, as it were, for them when they were at schools that actually celebrated international work.
Right, right.
So we do need more direct research in this area, but certainly what we hear a lot of is, particularly the young people we work with, found being at school where internationalism was a central ethos that said, yes, you must travel, you must learn language, you must visit your partner's school. All this gave them the wider understanding and commitment to pursuing international careers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's something we're, you know, very keen on, that wider development. And likewise, we work with governor groups, school governors that you may be aware of as well, in terms of, I'm a governor now, because they're quite a powerful group. They pretty much insist that international work is writ large there in the curriculum, and we certainly want to do lots more work in that area, because who was it that said we're all in this together? And certainly the British Council, we see our work working with a range of partners. It can't just be us, it's working with your good cells and a whole range of providers to really support, engage and inspire educators about this work.
But unfortunately, you know, I think if you look at the wider political environment, that globalization has its detractors, doesn't it? And, you know, you see in many countries where there is, I mean, Britain included, of course. I mean, you know, the whole Brexit movement was very much part of, you know, ourselves alone. So I think, you know, sometimes it must be very challenging to battle against kind of these kinds of sentiments, right?
Yeah, okay. It's really interesting. It's really interesting, Nina. I think it is possible to separate things out. You know, we have the most enormous respect for points of view, for whatever your politics, whatever you could, you know, and that's absolutely fine. And this is where we stay very close to parents as well, as a, you know, whatever else is going on, we hear lots and lots of support for the continuation of the key importance of languages, of overseas experience, of internationalism. And that's why we position this work with schools in that wider commitment to internationalism. You know, we are a connected globe.
Absolutely.
We are a connected globe. So whatever else is going on, we very much separate out whatever your own opinions on it. There is a landmass over there that speaks different languages, and that's absolutely fine. Then that's why part of our work with the Turing scheme, then you may have heard of the our Department of Education has launched what they're calling the Turing program, and that's designed to get young people explicitly to visit partner schools.
Right. Okay.
So there is specific funding for
that. There's funding for that.
There is indeed. So again, you know, who was it that said you have to be able to, you know, work with a whole range of different priorities and work with some ambiguity at times. But at the heart of this is, you know, we believe profoundly that young people have a right to this knowledge, have a right to explore different cultures, different ways of thinking. And it's absolutely their prerogative to make decisions on that information as they progress through their work, their higher education. But we hope, and you know, years ago, I think we're all aware that schools were saying, well, of course we're international because all the young people went skiing. You know, we had, and it was quite interesting. This was about 8-10 years ago. And the teacher said the young people have all been on a skiing trip, you know, which is fine. And what kind of shocked them was none of the young people actually could put on a map where they'd been. None of the young people knew that German was spoken
in that country.
In Austria, and they had very little idea about the systems, the geography. So we said, in essence, that ski trip isn't what we would consider international. So we've been doing a lot of work to make sure there's that wider understanding.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, it goes back, right? That, you know, whatever initiative you plan, there has to be a clear intent, the 3 I's, right? The intent, the implementation, and the impact. You know, just because you plan a school trip that happens to be abroad doesn't make it part of internationalism. I just go to a question that's in the chat box, John. Great presentation from True Partnerships. Great presentation from John, and applaud the amazing work of the British Council. I would like to ask John if there are any links between his wonderful skills tree diagram and the WEF Education 4.0 8 critical characteristics.
Oh my gosh. Hello, True Partnerships. Good to have you on the call. Again, thanks for all the great work you're doing. It's very much that shared commitment. No, I'm not aware of that. I've heard of that, but yeah, that would be really useful. You know, we'll maybe talk offline to Partnerships about that, because I've heard of that, and I think that would be really useful to develop that in terms of the wider tree.
To be part of that whole framework, as you said.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because, you know, as we always say, you know, it's very important that all of us have that shared commitment, and we all bring a rich range of expertise and knowledge and experience and contacts and networks to this. So absolutely, you know, I'm all for the importance of sharing this and bringing those resources together, because it's more important than ever, you know, to provide those authentic experiences.
Yeah. Okay, you've mentioned a couple of things, obviously, quite frequently. The concept of authentic learning, authentic curriculum, and also sharing best practices amongst teachers. Going to the authentic learning first, can you maybe just give examples of what areas of the curriculum, you know, obviously language is an obvious example, but what kind of authentic learning experiences do you think fit best with internationalism? We've mentioned sport.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, arguably every aspect of this, this work, and this is why we feel the importance of linked schools. Are very important. So even if you're doing a geography project or drama and dance or a history project, some of the most interesting work that we find with our International School Award is around history.
History.
Again, what underpins all of this is, we would say, compare and contrast. I think it was a school in Derby we worked with, and it was the Edward VII school. I believe it was called the Edward VII. But what was really interesting is their linked school said, wow, do the royal children go to this school? They thought, wow, what a great name for a school, because many schools overseas don't have, they're called school number 8, school number 9, you know, they're perhaps not as colourful as many of the school names in the UK. And both schools decided, let's do a local history project. Why are our schools called these names? And so the young people themselves were encouraged to do the history learning, the you know, talking to parents and talking to people in the wider community. And their linked school overseas did the same. And they delivered the information about why their school names were such. And I felt this was really interesting because, again, it was doing it for a real interested audience who were absolutely fascinated with the local history. And you can bring in the industrial past, etc., of an area. You may have heard of a project we do as well called Rivers of the World. And the genesis of that were schools in London who were actually located quite near the River Thames. And the young people there had never been to the River Thames.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And again, you know, I think there's sometimes a belief that, you know, if you live in a big city, the young people are quite street smart, well-travelled, aware. So they thought, my gosh, we've got one of the world rivers about a mile away. None of the young people know it or understand the historic nature of why, you know, Britain developed through the industry and that. So again, they linked with there were schools all over the world, but the River Seine, for example, was picked as well for a project linking schools around the world that had in common the importance of rivers. So young people, as well as doing history projects about it, they created artworks. And again, this would be a great project to bring into Malaysia or anywhere, because it used that common theme that young people could do the research and then present the artwork, present the findings to their linked school. This had the impact on skills and confidence because they had to talk through their findings. They had to deliver some great quality artwork. They had to improve their literacy in order to write up their findings as well. One of those simple projects, and I'm sure Colette, you started here as well, was a day in the life of our school. You actually talk through what the young people do, what they have for lunch, what they can see from their school windows, something fairly simple. And again, what was interesting is schools that we had a project linking schools with Uganda, and they were amazed that when we talk about organic lunches, many Many of the school lunches there were much healthier.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the healthy schools initiatives and healthy lunches and climate changes, it's actually saying, look at what other young people are eating around the world. We had a school that linked, they had problems of electricity. You know, they only had electricity for 2 hours a day. And they said, what would you do in your school if you only had 2 hours? Would you use it for reading or cooking? So it provided a kind of real world experience. And young people, you know, obviously the challenges, and we say, rather than just saying, oh, it's very fortunate for you that you live in a wealthy country and you have access to things. It's all about providing a range of choices for young people as well. What would you do if? How is it that your friends in your linked schoolwork? So I think that's what we mean by authentic, Nina, in terms of being able to compare and trust those real world experiences. A great project we're doing at the moment are film reviews.
Yeah.
You know, with young people and home learning.
Netflix,
it's actually young people just exchanging a film review about something they've seen. So again, it's been shown that all this learning is actually about celebrating what you're doing and celebrating what your linked school's doing. Very much the equity and mutual learning underpinning it.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, it is sometimes a challenge within, you know, schools which have very packed schedules and, you know, curricular kind of commitments and public examinations, to really find the time to step back and encourage them to do that, right? Because it shouldn't be seen as competing, but somehow some teachers do, right? They see this as an add-on, another thing that I've got to think about. So how do you get teachers convinced that actually this is something that is embedded, that is part, you know, of the curriculum and not just a bolt-on?
Well, we give them lots and lots of ideas and lots and lots of support. Again, going back to what we were saying earlier with some of the schools we've been working in Birmingham, we're actually linking them with some schools in Commonwealth countries in advance of God, and they were actually already developing work in their curriculum around climate change and plastic waste. So we have then linked into the school doing the same objectives in their school as well. So it's very much, we're always keen to say this is not extra work.
Yes.
I think there's sometimes, you know, I think there is sometimes a belief that this is, you do your schoolwork and then you do your work.
This is exactly
very much about supporting what you're already doing.
Exactly.
We would be the first ones to say, absolutely, Nina, do not make this extra work.
Because and this is something that, you know, especially schools in very heavily kind of exam-oriented systems. I mean, of course, we're bringing them on the journey, but, you know, there is all this concept, oh, I just don't have time for this. Or in Malay, you know, this concept of membebankan guru. We don't want to, you know, burden teachers any more than they are.
Well, we, you know, again, going back to what we're saying, we will support teachers. You know, we wouldn't just say, do this and leave them with the book or leave them with the link. We would very much support them through the process. And absolutely, we appreciate that there are challenges. However, these challenges are easily overcome because this is part of that global supportive community. No school would ever be expected to do this on their own. There would be the active engagement, that active involvement, that dialogue with them to demonstrate what they can do and how it will have real impact. We're always very keen to position this as something very central to high quality teaching and learning as well. So again, we would never go in cold, as it were. And it could well be that we only ask, say, 30 minutes of their time to give them ideas, off-the-shelf ideas that they can use in their school, as we showed earlier. If they are developing a certain topic or a certain theme in the curriculum, we can actually link you with the school that's doing that, or give you further ideas how to develop that. So schools are never on their own with this.
Okay, great.
All
Okay,
right.
before we get to some questions, yeah, Jasmine, were you about to jump in there?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Nina. Thank you for the session and the questions and answering all those questions. I'm going to share my screen very quickly because we've got about 10 minutes left. And I'm going to share what we have for the future for global learning and making sure that collaboration is impactful in our schools we work with and with other educational institutions we work with. So, can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Yes, okay. So definitely there's opportunities for collaboration, and we are trying to ensure that actually the collaboration is authentic and it's impactful. So we will be launching our own Libit Global Learning Platform on the 15th of March. And we thank John and Colette for their input with that. Our schools are on the roll and they are actually already collaborating within the country. They're collaborating with the UK, of course, and they've just finished the trial collaborating with 22 other schools worldwide. There's also an opportunity for collaboration via LEPED with EcoWera and CyberWera. We have two programs going. The EcoWera one is, of course, it's focused on climate change and all of that. CyberWera is focused on actually digital citizenship. Then we also have an opportunity with the T4 Tech Summit and LEPED together. That is on the 17th of April, and they will be doing the tech side of education. How do we use tech to firstly to collaborate and teach successfully? And there'll be over 89 schools already signed up. We also will continue to collaborate with British Council and collect cotton. This will be ongoing. We also will be doing some research with Brookside Institute, Rebecca Winthrop, if you want to go online and find it there. We will be doing some research, as earlier mentioned, on student engagement and parent engagement in learning. And then through partnerships, I'm so chuffed to see that they are here today. I've just signed up in the week for True Partnerships. It's in progress. And I'm going to be speaking to leadership about that, and Dr. Gianti, our head of development. True Partnerships is a really great global alliance, and we are going to see how we can tap into that. Now, saying all of that, we've got all of these programs and names here. Today, we're talking about the impact of collaboration. And if you collaborate, you need to collaborate without fear about the one company being better than the other one, or the other one, you know, outshining the other one. And this is what we're doing with this. We're moving towards that. And all of these stakeholders on this page offer schools a bit of something worthwhile, something valuable. And I also firmly believe that if all of this doesn't filter to our students, we have done nothing, really. So I'm going to send an email. Everyone present in this seminar today, they will be getting links to each and everything here. They will be able to sign up to the T4 Tech Summit. They will be able to liaise with British Council and collect cotton. They can participate in our research when we started with Brookside Institute in Washington, D.C. And we'll be follow up with True Partnerships. Make sure, Gary, be sure you will hear from us. You will hear from LEPED. Yeah, you will hear from us shortly. So I'm going to say thank you to everybody for coming today. I'm going to stop sharing there. And I'm going to open this floor. If there's any questions, put it in the chat. Before we log off, I'm going to capture all the questions, and even I will try to answer those questions in this follow-up email. These sessions are important, so we need to connect and meet each other. 1 hour is not enough to answer all those questions. if you register for our global learning platform, you will be able to actually see things in action. Hannah Ray had a question in the chat asking, does this work for secondary and primary? My answer to her was definitely it works, because we have actually, while we were doing a global project linked to the Ministry of Education's curriculum, right, we took our secondary students into the primary school and they did a project. They did project-based learning together, right? And they still achieved all their targets and objectives and whatever they had to achieve. So the main aim, I think, especially for our Malaysian teachers here, is the practicality. They want to see how does it work in practice, right? So we are onto that, and you will be getting all these links. I'll ask of you, if you're interested in global learning, do sign up. Most of the schools in attendance today, they already signed up. And I also want to ask John and Colette, of course, we will be working with you throughout the year and many more years to also share our platform with other schools worldwide. And if there's any other questions, please ask it in the chat, leave it in the chat, and we'll get back to you. Right. Thank you, John. Thank you, Nina. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for coming. You know where we are.
Yes.